So welcome everyone to our lab meeting for the week. One thing I will go ahead and mention, and I'll put this in the email too. Monday is Labor Day in the United States, so we'll not be having class on Labor Day. So what I'm actually probably going to do is actually move our one meeting next week from Monday to Tuesday. I'm going to move it over to Tuesday. If you can't come, I'll record it. But I just wanted you to know I'm not going to meet on Labor Day itself. We will meet on Tuesday, the day after Labor Day. And then we'll also meet on Thursday. So we'll still have our Thursday meeting. So 11.1.10, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, it's part 2 of it that where they ask you to switch between the 2 PC that they have for the rogue laptop.
Okay.
And first of all, we're trying to, I connect both of them that give have the maximum of 3 ports. Then I discovered that they asked me to disconnect PC2, and then I disconnect PC2. Then I install the rogue PC, the rogue laptop, and I was able to ping, verify the PC1, and then from the laptop. My point is that because I was reading it in the Cisco guidebook that you can have as many as 4 MAC address on the port security. But when I tried,
you can have a lot more than 4.
Okay, when I was trying to verify the port security on the switch, it gave me the table, but it doesn't give me any number.
Okay. Well, on this particular packet tracer, and we're going to talk about port security, and I'm actually going to walk through port security on a real device. But what they're basically wanting you to do is you're going to set the port security on a port, and then you're going to connect a rogue laptop so that it causes the port to go into an air disabled, which is basically it's saying it's disabled, and it's because it has violated the policy of the port. So you're talking about down here in part 2, that's really what they're wanting you to do. They're wanting you to go in and to cause a violation. And now they put in here, you put in a Switchport port security maximum 1. That means there's a maximum of 1 address in that port when you set it up. So when it learns the MAC address of PC2 or PC1, I don't remember which one they have you replace. I think it was PC1, not PC2. Yeah. So if you take PC2 off, in that MAC address table is still the address for PC2, and so it will not allow the port to go active. So basically, I'll just go ahead and do it real quick. So we can put in, let's see, it's port. What port are we on here? Let's see. Port 1 and 2. Okay, so we'll do port 1 and 2 is what they got us doing. So we're going to go in here, and one of the first things about port security is that you have to be able to, you really want to set it so that, well, let's talk a second about port security. Would you in the real world, would you normally set the maximum addresses to 1 in the real world? Anybody can respond. Would you normally set it to just 1? Or can you think of an area where you'd set it to just 1? I can think of only one area that I would set it to just 1. And that would be a super secure environment. So the problem is if you set it to just 1, let's think about even our PCs in our labs. We have many times load VMware workstation. We load VirtualBox. We load software that allows us to virtualize other devices or other machines on a PC. So if you were to put this on your ports in your lab and you booted up VirtualBox and had a virtual machine that was not being NATed through the 1 IP address and the 1 interface on your device, your virtual machine would shut the port down. Okay, So typically we don't set it to just one. Typically we try to set it to at least two, at least something that's not one. Let's see, are the IP addresses already in here? Because we're not, yeah, they're already on there. Okay, good. So, but let's do this. Let's go into interface range, and they want us to set this on FA01 and 2. All right. The place most people get in trouble is they forget to turn on port security, and that is with the command switchport port security. That turns port security on. Without that, if you do the port security maximum 1, MAC address sticky, all of that, it's not going to matter. It's not going to work. Okay, so you've got to put that in first. Basically, it's enable port security with the switchport port security command. We're then going to set our maximum number of addresses, and you'll see it's up to 132 inside of Packet Tracer. So let's jump over here and look in the actual lab. Oops. Hold on just a minute. I've got too many ports, too many different things open here. So here it is. So in an actual lab, let's go into, make sure we pick the right port, FA06. So let's go to EN, config T. By the way, before I do this, if I do a show port security, you'll notice that nothing is showing.
That's what I get.
Yeah, but nothing, that's because you haven't turned on port security yet. That's where you're going wrong. You are forgetting this very first command, which is port security, switchport port security. You've got to put that in first. So let's go into port 06. Make sure I'm in the right one. Yep, port 06. So we're going to go config T, int FA06, switchport port security. Okay.
Didn't it already give the answer though when you looked at the table of 8,192 addresses?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the answer there, 8192, which is very different from, and that again shows us why it's, let's see here, if we hit
ISO 24.
Port, show switch. Oop, I won't do it for him to do this. Show. Yep. See, now this is, you see it's turned on. When you turn on port security, there it automatically comes on with settings. In other words, we haven't set the maximum addresses because there's a default. The maximum addresses by default is 1. The mode by default is shutdown. So the second that you actually do switchport port security, it turns that on. Let me go back in here. Go back into config T, and let me do again the interface range. Let's do no switchport port security. Now let's drop all the way out into a show port security. You'll notice nothing shows. You get nothing. Same thing over here. If you don't have it turned on, you get nothing. But if you turn it on, watch what happens. Well, I hadn't put it on the interface yet because watch what happened here. Notice in the real world what it told me. In our simulated world, it would let me just put switchport port security on it without changing it to an access port. But if I try that here, look at it bark at me. It's a dynamic port. DTP is on. So real world DTP is on. So how do I make this an access port? What's the command?
Switchport mode access.
Yep. Okay, so now I'm gonna make it an access port, which turns off DTP. Then I'm gonna do switchport port security. Okay, now watch what happens. If I do a Control Z, do a show port security. Port security is now on. There's 1 maximum address and the violation mode is shut down. So you must put this command in first to enable port security. And that's what you missed, Jacob.
Okay.
So that's why you didn't have it. Now, if port security is on, okay, now we'll keep comparing the differences. This, by the way, is why I make you do it on real gear, because it's not the same as what's on Packet Tracer. All right. If I do my int range here, FA01, to, all right, Switchport, wait, not shut down, Switchport, port security, Switchport, port security maximum of 1, Switchport, port security, mode. It's actually security mode or violation. And you set protect, restrict, or shut down. By default, it's shut down, and I think they wanted you to do restrict. Okay. And type exit here. Type exit. Let's do show port security. You'll see now it's set to restrict. You'll notice it hasn't learned any addresses yet. That's because no traffic has gone through to learn. The other thing I forgot to do is I forgot to do my MAC address sticky. So switch port security, MAC address sticky. Okay. So now what's going to happen is if I go into this packet tracer and I say send a ping from here to here, we should see, I do a control Z, do a show port security. You'll notice now the current address count is 1. So at this point, we have the ability for those to be in that mode. Now, what I'm actually going to do, just because I want to show it working a little better, is I'm going to int FA02, and I'm going to do Switchport port security violation shutdown. I'm going to put it back to shutdown. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want it to do, when I put this rogue on there, I want it to shut it down, not processes. Show port security. I want it to show the shutdown. Okay. So now we're going to go in here and we're going to disconnect. We're going to disconnect the cable. And then we're going to go and we're going to get a cable. We're going to connect this rogue Rouge laptop to port 02. Now look what happened. Okay. Now let's see. Look at this. Now we have a violation. So in other words, we have now violated that security policy, the port security policy. So now if I do a show interface FA02, you're going to notice it's in air disabled mode. In other words, it shut itself down because of the shutdown command. And now the difference, let's go back over here real quickly. The difference between these different modes, okay? When you look at port security, let's go down and look at our different modes here. Our different modes, the default is shutdown. So if you just do shutdown or just do Switchport port security, the mode is shutdown. And obviously that will shut it down when it violates the number of maximum MAC addresses. Restrict drops it from an unknown source until you remove a number of secure MAC addresses or they age out, okay? And it does increment the syslog. Protect, the only difference between protect and restrict is that it does not increment the security violation counter. Now, how do you remember this? I had to remember this and it's still hard for me to do it. What is the difference between restrict and protect? You need to remember that restrict resets or changes the security violation counter. So remember that restrict changes the security violation counter. Protect does not. So restrict. Now, by the way, this is actually erroneous. It does not generate a syslog message unless you've got syslog set up. Now, if syslog is set up, yes, it does generate one. But if a syslog is not set up, it does not generate one. So really restrict, all it does is causes a security violation counter to increment. If you've got syslog on, it will then send a syslog message. Okay. Those modes, however, and you said, good question here, to show port security now. All right. You'll see that the maximum addresses is 8192. Let's go back over here and just confirm that just to make absolutely sure, because I don't always believe everything the iOS tells me. Switchport, port security, maximum. Yep, 8192. So 8,192 is 92 MAC addresses is the limit for a 2960 switch. It could be different on different switches. So now at this
Mine is
point,
showing the 1024.
do what?
It's showing the 2024 on the MAC address limit system, excluding the MAC per port.
I don't understand, Jacob.
I said in my computer is showing total address, MAC address limit in system, excluding one MAC per port. Mine is showing 24.
Is that? Well, let's look, see if that's what's in here.
That's switch at 2960.
$132 here. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. And it may just be a different iOS version. So, I mean, these are 2960 switches. This is a do show ver. This is a 2960. But now I'm running version 15.2 of the iOS. So maybe you've got an older version of the iOS. And you're talking about a local switch you have there that you've connected to the console on?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't get the packet tracer from the, because when I was trying to load it, it said the packet tracer doesn't support the violating it's not the correct one for the version that I'm using. Probably be because we do not have. Let me show you the.
Do you have a Macintosh?
No, PC.
You should be able to download version 8.01 of Packet Tracer and use it on any PC. A 64. I would use the 64-bit version though.
I checked that one with you.
Because you should definitely be able to do that. There should be no reason why you couldn't use that. So you can see that there is a difference between the way Packet Tracer works with port security and the way that it works with real gear. Okay, slightly different, not massively different, but slightly different. I do want to talk about something today. I want to talk about obviously the port security, which we've talked a little bit about. This is the key. You'll notice in the real world, you get this. Commands rejected because it's a dynamic port. So you have to turn it into an access port first. So that's turning off DTP. And then you can enable Switchport port security. And when you do, the very second you put Switchport port security on there, it enables it. It has shutdown as the violation mode, and it allows one address. So you need to go in and set those values. If you leave it at 1, you're probably going to get yourself in trouble, especially in a live environment. But this is a very important security feature for switches, because you have to think your switches, the ports that your PCs are plugged into, you can't really turn those off. Those have to be active ports. So you need some way to protect it. So when it's disconnected and a hacker tries to put their machine in, there is a way to block them. So depending on your environment, some of the things I want to talk about with securing a switch is we've talked about creating a black hole VLAN. So that's going to be a VLAN that we put all unused ports into. So if the port's not in use on the switch, we're going to put it into the black hole VLAN. We're going to shut down. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
I'm sorry, but we wouldn't port security a black hole VLAN, would we?
No, I wouldn't. The thing is, you can put port security on the port, because remember, port security is based on the port, not the VLAN. So you can
understood.
Still put port security on it and have it parked into a black hole VLAN.
Okay.
So let me show you.
I'm trying to understand why the value added by doing that, because I thought that was the purpose of the black hole VLAN to begin with.
Okay. What if you bring it out of the black? Okay. Remember, we park our ports in the VLAN, in the black hole VLAN. But if we add a new PC, we have to pull one of those ports out of the black hole VLAN, right?
Okay, but that gives me a different entering argument.
Okay. What's that?
Well, because I'm pulling it out of a parked, protected location, so now I would want to put security on it because it's no longer in my black hole.
And that's why that's step number 5 instead of step number 2.
Okay.
So if you do bring it into a production environment, you enable port on all used ports. Now you could put it on those that you park in a black hole, then it's already configured. So let's make, I'm gonna show you an imaginary world. Let's imagine that on switch S2, other than port 01, because we're gonna end up probably trunking across that, obviously, because that's gonna be a trunk point. But let's say that every other port, we're going to do port security on it, and we're going to enable it to allow 3 addresses. Violation mode is going to be shut down, and we're going to set it to sticky MAC addresses. So let's go to switch 2. And so we go in here, we log in. We got to, first off, we got to give it a host name, host S2. And we're going to do an interface range FA, and we want to leave 1 out because that's going to be a trunk. 2 to 24 plus gig 01 gig 02. All right, so that's all the ports except for that one. Now, what I should have done is create a black hole first, but let's just, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to set up port security first. So switch port mode access, because remember we got to do that. Switch port, actually I'm going to do this. Let's do switch port access VLAN, and let's do 300. Okay, it actually will go ahead and create it for me, so that's going to be my black hole VLAN. So I'm going to use that as my black hole VLAN. So they're all in the black hole VLAN now. I'm still going to do switch port security. I'm going to switch port, that turns it on, by the way. Switch port security maximum 3. Switch port security. I don't have to set the violation mode to shut down because the violation mode is by default shut down, but I'm doing it just so it's in the config. And then switch port security, MAC address, sticky. All right. So now let's do a do right. Let's do I'm excited, and I'm actually going to do this in VLAN 300, which already exists. Give it the name black hole. Do right. So now this switch, I go install it in a rack. Okay. And you'll notice all my ports, except for the port that's eventually going to be a trunk here, all these ports are in a black hole VLAN. And also, port security is already on every single one of them. So now I send a tech out and I tell that tech, okay, you need to connect a PC to port 018. So at that point, what I would do is I would go config T, and let's say that's going to be on VLAN 10. So let's say VLAN 10, name students. All right, exit. And I'm going to do interface FA018. The only thing I have to do now is switch port access VLAN 10. Do right. Do show VLAN, and you'll notice now port 018 is in that VLAN, and port security is enabled on that port already. So that way I don't forget to turn port security on 018 when it becomes an access port. So it's just kind of a way, Steve, that you don't have to remember to do it in case you forget to do it. All right. Now, I'm like you, if you park it out there, you really don't have to do it. But if it gets unparked for some reason, you've got, or it gets unparked by accident, at least you've got port security on it. That is also good for another reason. If for some reason it does get unparked, it's going to stop ARP attacks. It's going to stop what is known as a ARP cache overflow attack. Because if you can overload the MAC address table on a switch, it starts acting just like a hub. So it's just an added thing you can do. Now, again, real world, I would probably just park them in the black hole and leave them there, and then put in port security when I bring them over.
I guess I'm surprised it's not a best practice.
Yeah, yeah. You just got to remember to do it. Let me get this here, see if I can find my. the other thing I forgot to do is I forgot to do the shutdown command on. All right, and then I go int f, come on now. 018, no shut. And now if I do a show IP net brief, brief, all ports should be shut down except for 018 and 01 because I did not touch 01 yet, because that's going to eventually be a trunk. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and set that up as a trunk, by the way. Yeah. Now, I want to show you this. One thing I do suggest is that you do create a non-production VLAN to be used as your native VLAN. So in other words, so I'm going to go in here before I do this. You'll notice I only have, if I do show VLAN, I only have VLAN 10, which is students, and 300, which is the black hole VLAN. So I'm now going to make a VLAN, and I'm going to say 400, and I'm going to name it the native unused. Okay, and then I'll do int FA01 switch port mode trunk, switch port trunk native VLAN 400. I do right, and I'm gonna go over to switch 1 now because it should be also connected to FA01. Make sure that is true. So we notice we've got a native VLAN mismatch. So int FA01 config T first, int FA01, and by the way, F or FA, either one will work. Switch port mode trunk, switch port trunk native VLAN, native. You know, let's see what happens when I do this. If it doesn't exist, okay, that's funny. VLAN 400 native unused. Do show VLAN. Okay, let's see now we got that native. Oop, there it goes. I'm showing there. It'll show up in a second because I had to. Oh, you know why it's not showing up? Because I'm not doing this. And no VLAN 333 because I had done that earlier. Do show VLAN. There it is, native unused. It didn't show up because I hadn't dropped out of config mode yet. And if I do a do show int trunk, I should now have a trunk between. Yep, I have a trunk, the native VLAN of 400. So switch 2 has got a pretty secure configuration on it now. All right. If you do a show IP int brief, the only port that's up is the FA01 and FA018. Everybody else is administratively down. So we're now following the several rules. Do a show VLAN, you'll see that all the ports except for the ones in use are in a black hole VLAN. So we have created a black hole. We put all unused ports in a black hole. We've shut down all unused ports. We've used a non-production VLAN as our native VLAN for our trunk. And we've even enabled port security, but we've enabled it on all ports. So at this point, other than this item right here, which they don't talk about in the curriculum, your switches are pretty secure. I mean, they really are. At this point, you've done what you can do other than, you know, lock them in a box so that people can't literally connect. And that's what some people do in classrooms. Like if you have a classroom switch and it's on the wall, and put them in a locked closet so that people can't disconnect cables and reconnect cables. So, you know, you could put that down as a number 7, which I don't, you know, and that would basically be
Physical security.
yeah, physically secure the switch. Because somebody can unplug it and walk off with it. It doesn't matter how much security you've done, you're done.
In the DoD, when we had our classified network, you know, top secret network, and we ran it on fiber.
Yep.
To avoid it.
Yep.
They actually went to the point that at the end of the day, we had to lock the connector and remove the optic cable because they
believe it.
consider the connector to be classified.
I believe it. I believe it. And you know, the reason they used obviously fiber is because you can't pull any cable, any information at all off of it. If you were to use a piece of copper cable, there's actually devices you can lay that copper cable in and pull signals off of it, and then recreate the signals and use that to try to recreate the data. So, you know, this is something we don't think a lot about in the non-DoD world, this physical security, but we need to make sure we're physically securing the switch. I joke all the time, steal the power cable. You know, it's all you got to do is steal the power cable, and then there's nothing anybody can do to work on the PC because, well, you can't get in it and it won't run. So, but that is really securing a switch. And that's a lot of what they're talking about here as far as this first part is implementing the port security. So we've secured all those unused ports. We put them into a unused VLAN. And that's what they're talking about here is mitigating these MAC address attacks. Being able to just disconnect one machine and connect another one. Port security stops that. You will see on the CCNA exam objectives, one of the things it says is ability to configure port security. So you need to be able to do this. I can promise you that it's probably going to be on the exam. The other thing I can promise you is in real world, 99% of the people forget the simplest command, which is they forget Switchport port security. They forget that. And that must be on there to turn on port security. You can put all this other stuff on here. In fact, I have seen it 100 times. Watch this, I'll even do it. So let's go here and look at the topology. So port FA06. Let's go to int FA06. We'll do Switchport, port security, maximum of 3, Switchport, port security, violation mode of shutdown, Switchport, port security, MAC address, sticky. Okay. And then I've seen this at Skills USA so many times, it's unbelievable. And then they say, oh, but I did port security, but watch. Oh, I must have it turned on. Oh, I had it turned on before. Hold on. I'd already done it in the previous lab. Oh, I thought I turned off domain 2. I played with this beforehand. Hold on a minute. No, switch port. Port's good. Okay. Now, okay, you see there's nothing there. Let's see if it took off the other stuff. If it is, I'll put it back in there and show it to you. Yep, but look, all that's in there. Port security maximum 3, sticky. You don't see the violation mode because the default violation mode is shutdown. So they just don't even put that in there. But you'll notice those commands are in there, but port security is not on. There's no port security turned on. So until you actually go into the interface and do Switchport port security, it is not on. And now it's on.
Okay, so the command is the trigger pull.
Exactly. Yep, that turns it on. That makes it happen. So you have to be sure that you've got that working, because if you don't, it is not going to even apply. All right. Extremely important. Now, the other thing that's important to know is if you do have shutdown set as the mode and the port is shut down due to a violation, the only way to fix that is to do a shut, no shut. So you actually have to shut it down, doing, if it's in the air disabled status, you have to shut the port down with a shutdown command, then do the no shut command to bring it back up. Okay. So verifying port security is show port security, and it will tell you if it's on or not and what particular ports it's on. Also tell you the number of maximum addresses and the number of addresses that are being seen on that particular port. You also can do it, drill down to an actual interface level. So show port security interface. So here I could do a show port, show port security FA01. I got to do interface FA01. Show port security FA06, actually not 106. You'll see it's enabled. Secure shutdown is the mode. Violation mode is shut down, or it's actually in secure shutdown mode. Shutdown 0, absolute disabled, the number of maximum addresses, the last source MAC address it sees. Okay. You'll notice it hasn't seen any addresses because nothing has come through here. So let's do something. Let's take this and let's do an IP config. Actually, I need to, hold on one second. I got to put this port into VLAN 10. VLAN 6. Switchport mode, switchport access, VLAN. Okay. So now we should be able to look here and see if there's an IP address. So it's 10.11. So let's ping 192.168.10.1. Let's see if we can make that ping happen. And we may not, because I don't have the IP, I don't have the whole thing working up there, but this should still show us what I want to see. No, it didn't do it because it didn't go through. Let me get my, I don't have this whole network built. I got to build gig 001. Right, so show IP network. Gig 001's that. So let's go switch here. It's connected to 05. So I got to fix this. So what I got to do is config T int FA05 switch port mode access. I just got to get all the ports in the correct VLAN. Make sure it's up and running. Yep. All right. So that now we should be able to actually ping it. Let's see if it works. Maybe. Come on now. You can do this. 0506 is in students. 12168 up. Should work. IP config, make sure my IP. And students FA018, black hole native. Trunking and all that's good. Yep. Yeah. VLAN 10, FA0506. 10, 192.168.10.1. That should be working. That actually should be working too. Yep, that worked. Okay, so 10.1's working. So I have obviously got something wrong with this PC. The port this PC is on. Watch this. I will show you this. Show port security interface at FA018. You'll see sticky MAC address is 1. You'll also see now show run under port 18. You'll see the MAC address that was sticky added into the config. So if I save the config now, it actually keep that. That's the MAC address for PCB. PCA has got a problem. So we got to figure out why port 06. So 06. It's air disabled. That's why. So config T and FA06. Shut. Oh, shut. It's a lot easier in the real world when you can just look over and see the amber light on it. There we go. Now we got it. Now she'll start working. Maybe. Famous last words. That's up now. It should start. There it goes. So it air disabled. Now if I do a show port security interface FA06, you'll see that it has learned 2 sticky MAC addresses, which is interesting because I know where it's getting the other one. I know exactly where it's getting the other one. I know I had a violation. The way NetLabs is set up, the switches connect to, they actually connect to a control switch, which would have been 1 MAC address, and then the PC would have been the 2nd MAC address. So when I enabled port security but did not set the maximum addresses to more than 1, it caused a violation. So now if I do a show run, watch this. This is going to be even cooler. You're going to get to see the MAC address for on 06, the PC, and also for the switch, the other switch this is connected to, which is another Cisco switch. Quick question for you. If I was trying to track one of these hosts, how would I do it? How would I figure out what these hosts are? Can anybody think of a way I could do that?
Well, if you
remember on MAC addresses, the OUI lookup. Remember the OUI?
Can't you look for them on a table?
Yep. So let's see 000C. So
if you show
00 colon 00 colon 00C. Oh, guess what? That first MAC address right there is the MAC address of the control switch that this particular switch is connected to. Now look at this one, 005056. I can tell you right now, I know what that one is. 00 colon 50 colon 56 is going to come up as VMware. It's a VMware because it's a virtual machine. So I could use this. I know that's some kind of Cisco device. This is a virtual machine. So that's the kind of thing you can do if you need to track a MAC address or find a MAC address. You can do that by looking at the MAC addresses that get set as sticky. Now, if you want it to survive a reboot, if you want that address to stay in there, you do have to do a run or copy run start after it's done the sticky. And that way it will get saved into the running config. Or excuse me, the startup config. Like right now, let's look over here. You see it looks like on port 018, we have a sticky address. But if I do a show start, 018 will not or should not, unless I've done a save, which I may have. So, see, I hadn't done a save on this one yet. So 018 does not have the MAC address yet because I haven't saved it. It's in the running config, but not the startup config. If I do a copy run start, or write, which is short for copy run start, and then do a show startup config, you'll now see that on 018, we've got the sticky MAC address that was on there. That way, if anybody else tried to connect another machine, if we had it set to just maximum 1, it would put it into an error disabled status. All right. Any questions about port security? It is an extremely important item for you to know how to do. Okay. The other items I do want you to look at here are DHCP attacks, and that's called DHCP snooping. DHCP snooping actually does require dynamic ARP inspection to be turned on. But what these two do is it keeps rogue DHCP servers from handing out DHCP addresses. You basically turn on trusted ports, and those ports can send out the DHCP server portions. Remember, what are the four? Well, let me ask you, what are the 4 different DHCP items that get sent out? The first thing sent out is a DHCP.
What, advertisement?
It's a, well, let's do IPv4. It's the DHCP Discover, right?
Okay, yeah, Discover.
So
It's the
host-
DORA.
Exactly, Aunt Dora, good old Aunt Dora. Discover, then an offer, then a request, and then acknowledgement. Okay. Well, what DHCP snooping does is you set up trusted ports, and only those ports are allowed to send out DHCP server messages. If a DHCP server message comes in on an untrusted port, it gets dropped. So this way, a hacker couldn't put a rogue DHCP server onto an access port and start handing out IP addresses to your clients, because it's not a trusted port. So you trust all the ports where you expect the DHCP discovers, not, excuse me, just DHCP offers and acknowledgements to come from. And that will fix that problem. So here's an example of it. IP DHCP snooping, you turn it on globally, and then you tell it what ports are going to be trusted. And then these are optional items where you can do a rate limit. So it's how much DHCP traffic can be sent across it. You also can turn it on a per VLAN basis if for some reason you don't want to do it on all your VLANs.
I noticed they're using an interface range.
Mm-hmm.
Would you do that for an entire range?
Well, what they're doing here, and it's kind of hard to see, but the range, this is limits the amount of DHCP that can be requested by the client. So this limit rate is how many DHCP discovers can be sent across here. So notice that's on the port that the clients are on.
Okay.
The trust is on the port that your server is on. So the rate limiting limits the client's ability to request DHCP.
Okay. Now I understand what they're doing with it.
Yeah, that is a little confusing, because you look at it and go, wait a minute, why am I going to do that? No, it's limiting the amount of requests that can come in.
Is 6 a default rate or recommended rate or an arbitrary rate?
Nah, that's a pretty arbitrary rate. I mean, it's 6 packets per second. So it's a pretty arbitrary rate. I don't know of a, we can look it up. Let's ask the holy Google. What is a good DHCP? Oh, what was it?
Request rate.
Snooping limit
Or
rate. Yeah, snooping limit rate. 100 packets per second.
Okay.
Untrusted limit of not more than 100 packets per second. So that's what they're saying. Untrusted limit of 100. That's good to know. 100 packets per second. So yeah, the number they put in here is pretty arbitrary. So real world, it looks like Cisco is recommending 100 packets per second. Okay. Excellent question. All right. And then last but not least, again, this dynamic ARP inspection is attempting to see with DHCP, you're doing globally, you're spoofing, and then you set up dynamic ARP inspection on on VLAN basis, and it's looking to make sure that you're not exceeding the number of the number of ARP requests on an interface. So no gratuitous ARP. It's intercepting requests on untrusted ports. It's making sure there's a valid IP to MAC binding. In other words, it's working with DHCP to make sure that IP address and the MAC addresses are bound together. And it helps to stop ARP requests from invalid sources. So in other words, if someone tries to connect to an interface and spoof a large number of MAC addresses, it uses DAI to block that, to put that port into an error disabled status, so that it will not be able to overwhelm your.
So that will prevent MAC flooding.
It helps. It helps. Really, what
Okay.
prevents MAC flooding the most, though, is port security. Port security
Okay.
stops it the most because you set a maximum limit, and as soon as you get past that limit, you either restrict it, protect it, or shut it down.
Okay.
So really, port security is an easier way to do it. Okay. Any other questions? Have any of you, I know, I don't think any of you have done any of the wireless LAN packet tracers yet. I think you're going to like those pretty good. But we're not in bad shape, folks. We're, about a month out from the end of class. I'm going to jump over the wireless stuff. I'm going to let you kind of run through those and then ask me any questions on those on Tuesday. And then we'll talk about routing concepts. And we're really only going to be dealing with very simple static routes in this particular section of the course. And then next course with Kirby, you're going to be looking at dynamic routing with OSPF and a little bit of EIGRP, but mostly just OSPF. Any questions I can answer before we call it a day? Remember, no class on Monday. I'm going to move the class over to Tuesday. If you cannot attend because you got class or something, that is fine. Do not worry about it. I will record it and send it out. But I just want to make sure that we, especially after missing this past Monday. Plus, I will tell you the week of the 12th, I will be at a conference that entire week. So we're not gonna have any meetings that week, but we're getting there into time that you need to be working on the final hands-on and the written final. We'll have those turned on for you. So any questions?
I might be late Tuesday, but I will be here.
Okay. It'll be same
Okay.
time, it'll be 3 o'clock. I'll just literally just move the meeting over one day. But that's
How
fine.
are you feeling?
I feel better. I really do. I'm having a lot of pain. It's funny. My finger, it's hard to see, but this finger right here, I dislocated it yesterday getting out of the boat. It's kind of nuts, but it's just I have little tweaks and pains and all kind of little things, but I'm getting there. I can't complain too much. I mean, when you spent part of your life in an electric wheelchair, paralyzed from the neck down, things don't bother you quite as much as they used to.
No, I understand, but the back,
So
that'll kill you because my entire spine is ruptured or herniated.
Yeah. And I have something just weird that happens to mine. It's like my lower back will just, every once in a while, I either tweak something or something and it goes into spasms. And when that happens, ooh, good gracious.